The door slammed open. A security guard stumbled backward, arms flailing as a small figure darted past him. A girl, no older than 5, her tangled auburn hair framing wide, unblinking eyes. She wore a faded yellow dress and socks mismatched, in color and size. No one moved. Adrian Voss's pen clattered onto the contract. 23 floors below, the city buzzed, oblivious to the decision that would reshape VantageCorp's future. His sharp eyes locked onto the intruder. "Out! Now!" he snapped. The girl ignored him. She marched straight to the table, climbed onto his chair, and gripped his hand with a strength that shocked him. Her palm was clammy, her voice a whisper that sliced through the room. "Sir, my mom is dying. Come now." The board members erupted in murmurs. Adrian yanked his hand free, but the girl's stare froze him. A strange, knowing look, as if she'd already memorized the cracks in his soul. His security team surged forward, but she stepped back, her small frame trembling. "She said you'd—" "No," she added, voice breaking. "She said the star would make you come." Adrian's breath caught. The scar beneath his shirt, a jagged star etched into his ribs, burned like a brand. He'd buried that part of his life a decade ago. "Who are you?" he hissed. The girl tilted her head. "Clara's daughter. Your daughter." The room tilted. The contract blurred. Somewhere, a phone rang. But Adrian heard only the echo of a name he'd sworn never to say again. "Clara, would you drop everything if a child claimed to be your long-lost daughter? What would you do at this moment if you were in Adrian's position? Welcome back to Evergreen Gracie Stories, my beautiful family and friends. I have missed you all. Missed all the experiences we've had together. It's been a rough ride as we're currently battling some technical issues, but trust me, we're getting everything back and running. So stick around. I need your support on YouTube now more than ever. Thank you specially for sticking around to this very moment. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now, back to the story. Adrian's fingers drummed against the armrest of his blacked-out Audi as it sliced through the rain-slicked streets. The boardroom was already a distant memory. The girl, his daughter, sat in the back seat, silent, clutching a frayed stuffed rabbit. She hadn't spoken since her bombshell declaration. Neither had he. The city blurred past the tinted windows, but his mind rewound a decade to a different world. A cramped dorm room littered with philosophy textbooks, the scent of cheap vanilla, candles, and Clara's laugh, a sound so bright it cut through the static of his inherited wealth and parental expectations. She'd been his first real anything, first love, first rebellion, first taste of vulnerability. A scholarship kid with paint-stained hands and a smile that dared him to care. They'd met in a lecture hall, bonded over a mutual disdain for pretentious art galleries, and spent 6 months tangled in a whirlwind of stolen weekends and whispered conversations about escaping the cages their families built. But when her scholarship funds vanished after a messy dispute with the university, Adrian had made a choice. One he'd buried under a decade of boardroom victories and empty penthouse nights. He'd offered to pay her tuition. She'd refused, her eyes blazing. "I don't want your money, Adrian. I want you to stop acting like it fixes everything." The argument that followed ended with her walking out, her face streaked with tears, his pride too sharp to follow. Adrian's rise to power was a masterclass in emotional detachment. By 28, he'd dismantled his father's failing tech empire and rebuilt VantageCorp into a Silicon Valley titan. His reputation was carved in ice: ruthless negotiations, zero tolerance for weakness, and a personal life sealed tighter than a vault. But scars don't fade just because you ignore them. The star-shaped burn on his ribs, Clara's parting gift, after a drunken tattoo parlor detour, itched whenever he lied to himself about moving on. His assistant, Mara, a woman who'd worked for him since his first startup, often caught him staring at the weathered sketchbook he kept locked in his desk. Inside were pages of half-finished designs for a children's book he'd once scribbled. In the margins of lecture notes, "The Star Who Forgot the Sky." Clara had loved it. "She'd have hated seeing you like this," Mara had muttered once, catching him flipping through the pages. He'd fired her for insubordination, then rehired her the next day. Some truths were too sharp to punish. Now the girl in the back seat shifted, her small voice slicing through the silence. "Why didn't you come back?" Adrian's breath hitched. Clara's mother, Evelyn, had raised the girl. A retired nurse with a spine of steel, Evelyn had sent Adrian a single letter a year after Clara vanished. It was unsigned, but the message was clear. "You don't get to be a father now." He'd torn it up, but the words stuck. The girl, her name was Lila, had grown up in a trailer park on the outskirts of Portland, surrounded by secondhand books and Evelyn's stories about a mother who danced with fireflies and painted stars. But Clara had disappeared when Lila was 2, leaving only a note that read, "Tell her I loved her, but the dark followed me home." Adrian's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The dark. He knew its shape intimately. The way it coiled, in the pit of your stomach. The way it made silence feel louder than screams. Lila's voice cut through again. "Mom's sick. The doctors don't know why, but she said you'd fix it." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were the same shade of storm gray as Clara's. The car pulled into a hospital parking garage, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Adrian followed Lila through sterile hallways, his polished shoes echoing like gunshots. Clara's room was dim, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and lavender. She lay motionless, tubes snaking from her arms, her once vibrant hair now a ghost of itself. Adrian froze. This wasn't supposed to be his life. The girl who'd taught him to feel, the daughter he'd never known, the woman clinging to life, because of a past he'd tried to erase. Lila tugged his sleeve. "You're staying, right?" He didn't answer. "Would you risk everything to fix a mistake from your past? I really want to hear from you. How far have you ever gone to make things right? Let me know in the comments." Clara's fingers twitched. Adrian froze. His breath caught between his ribs. Lila leaned forward, her tiny hand gripping Clara's wrist like a lifeline. For a moment, nothing. Then Clara's eyelids fluttered open, glassy, unfocused, but alive. "Mom," Lila whispered. Clara's lips parted. A rasping sound escaped, her throat barely audible over the machines. Adrian leaned closer, his pulse hammering. "Adrian." The word was a thread, fraying at the edges. But then her eyes locked onto his. Recognition. Panic. A desperate flicker of clarity. "The dark," she rasped. "It's not gone." Adrian's stomach turned. The same phrase from her goodbye note. "The dark followed me home." Clara's trembling hand brushed his sleeve, her touch ghost-light. Something cold pressed into his palm. A small, jagged object, a tarnished brass key. "Vault," she gasped. "Beneath the house." Then her body arched off the bed, a strangled cry tearing from her throat. The heart monitor screamed. Nurses burst into the room, shoving Adrian backward. Lila's screams pierced the chaos. "Mommy! Mommy!" Adrian stumbled out of the way, the key digging into his palm. Clara's body convulsed once, twice, then stilled. The machines flatlined. "Sir?" A nurse blocked his path, her voice sharp. "You need to leave." Adrian didn't move, his gaze locked onto Clara's slack face, the hollow silence where her breath had been. Lila's wails echoed down the hallway. "Sir!" He turned on his heel and walked out. Outside, the rain had turned to sleet. The key burned in his pocket, beneath the house. Clara's childhood home, an abandoned farmhouse outside Portland, was the last place he wanted to go, but her words left no room for hesitation. He called his pilot. The jet's engines roared to life as Adrian scrolled through encrypted messages on his phone. Mara had sent an update. Security footage from the hospital shows a man in a black coat watching Clara's room for 12 hours before Lila arrived. No ID! He vanished after Clara coded. Adrian's jaw tightened. Coincidence? Or something darker? Lila sat across from him, buckled into a leather seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her eyes were dry now, but her voice cut through the cabin. Noise like glass. You're going to fix it, right? Adrian hesitated. Fix what? Why Mom got sick. He looked away. The key in his pocket felt heavier. The farmhouse loomed at dusk, its skeletal frame silhouetted against the stormy sky. Weeds choked the porch. The air smelled of damp earth and rot. Adrian carried Lila past the threshold. The power was out, but his flashlight beam sliced through the gloom, revealing peeling wallpaper and faded crayon drawings on the walls. Lila's, he realized. Stars, mostly. Vault, he muttered. Mom said it's where she kept her secrets, Lila said. They found it in the basement, a rusted metal door hidden under a carpet, the key fitting with a sickening click. The hinges groaned as Adrian pried it open. A steep staircase descended into blackness. Lila tugged his sleeve. I'm scared. He knelt, meeting her eyes. Stay here. If you hear anything, you run. Understand? She nodded. Adrian descended alone. The air grew colder with each step. The tunnel opened into a small chamber, its walls lined with shelves of old journals, boxes of newspaper clippings, and a single wooden desk. A laptop sat dormant on the desk, its screen cracked. Adrian's flashlight landed on a framed photo. Clara grinning, her belly rounded beneath a sunflower dress. A hand-lettered note on the desk read, If you're reading this, I'm gone. But the dark is still here. It wears a face you'll recognize, his. Blood ran cold. The laptop flickered to life as he pressed the power button. A video file played automatically. Clara's face filled the screen, gaunt and terrified. Adrian, if you're seeing this, I don't have much time. They told me the illness was incurable, but that's a lie. They gave it to me, to punish me, for running, for taking Lila, for knowing too much. Her voice cracked. You have to find the others, the ones they marked, the ones who survived the experiments. They're still out there, still hiding, still static. Then a final whisper. Running. The screen went black. Adrian's hands shook. Experiments. Others. Marked. A noise behind him. Footsteps. He spun, but the beam of his flashlight caught only dust motes and shadows. Then a voice, low and familiar from the darkness. Hello, Adrian. Adrian froze. The man who stepped into the light wore a tailored suit, his silver watch glinting in the gloom. His smile was all edges. You shouldn't have come back, the man said. Adrian knew that face. It was the same man who'd funded VantageCorp's first breakthrough. His mentor, his investor, his father. Would you confront a parent who betrayed you if it meant saving someone you love? How would you even go about it? The farmhouse exploded behind them. Adrian barely had time to shove Lila into the Audi's back seat before the ground shook. Firelight painted the rear-view mirror in shades of orange and crimson as they sped down the rain-slicked road. His phone buzzed. A call from Mara. They traced the jet's flight plan. Mara's voice hissed through the speaker. Your father's men torched the farmhouse. You need to disappear. Adrian's jaw clenched. Where can we go? Not Portland. Not anywhere connected to Clara. You need someone who knows how to vanish. A pause. There's a name in the VantageCorp archives. Project Echo. Clara's file listed 2 survivors. One of them still owes me a favor. Lila's voice cut through the silence. Why are they chasing us? Adrian glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Because your mom knew the truth. They found the first survivor in the bones of an abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of Reno, a rusted Ferris wheel creaking like a dying giant. Mara's contact, a wiry man named Kai, waited in a ticket booth cluttered with moth-eaten stuffed animals and a laptop glowing faintly in the dark. "You're Adrian Voss," Kai said, eyeing Lila. "Clara never said you were him." "She didn't have time," Adrian muttered. He placed Clara's journal on the counter. "She's dead, and my father's men are hunting the others." Kai's fingers trembled as he flipped through the pages. Sketches of symbols, serpents eating their tails, stars split by jagged lines, filled the margins. A name was scrawled repeatedly. Project Echo. "She told you about the experiments?" Adrian nodded. "She said it wasn't an illness. They gave her something." Kai leaned closer, his voice a whisper. "They called it the Bloom, a bioweapon designed to alter neural pathways, make people compliant, obedient. Clara escaped before they could finish the trials, but they never stopped looking for her." Lila's small voice interrupted. "I saw it once. In Mom's dreams." Kai froze. "What did you see?" "A man with a star face. He was glowing." Adrian's blood went cold. The scar on his ribs burned. Kai's safe house was a bunker beneath a shuttered roller rink, its walls lined with maps, newspaper clippings, and photos of strangers. Adrian studied the faces. Teenagers mostly, their eyes hollow. "These are the others?" he asked. "The ones who survived the Bloom," Kai said. "It doesn't work the same on everyone. Some die, some change." He hesitated. "Lila's different. She's not just a survivor, she's resistant." Adrian turned sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means she can see the patterns, where the bloom spreads, how it's used. Clara thought it was why they took her. To study her." Adrian's mind raced. The key, the vault, Clara's video, all pieces of a puzzle he wasn't ready to solve. Then Mara called. "They've locked down the Reno airports," she said. "You need to move. Now." Kai handed Adrian a burner phone. "There's another survivor in Seattle, name's Juno. She's a hacker. If anyone can crack your father's network, it's her." Adrian stood. "We'll go." Lila tugged his sleeve. "What if Juno's not nice?" He crouched to her level. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." The drive to Seattle was a blur of gas stations and stolen license plates. Lila slept fitfully, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her breath shallow. Adrian's phone buzzed with encrypted messages from Mara. Updates on his father's movements. Warnings about black SUVs tailing flights to the Pacific Northwest. Then, near Olympia, the road exploded in a flash of headlights. Two armored trucks boxed them in, their doors sliding open to reveal masked figures in tactical gear. "Dad!" Lila screamed. Adrian yanked the wheel, sending the Audi careening off the highway and down an embankment. Trees blurred past as they skidded into a ditch. The engine stalled. The men approached, guns raised. Then Lila screamed, a high, piercing sound that made the air vibrate. The men froze. One clutched his head, his helmet cracking like eggshell. Adrian didn't wait. He shoved Lila out the passenger side and ran. They didn't stop until they reached a riverbank, their breaths ragged. Behind them, the Audi burned. "What was that?" Adrian gasped. Lila stared at her hands. "The glow. It's in me, too." By dawn, they reached Seattle. Juno's hideout was a subterranean server farm beneath a shuttered library, its walls humming with the static of 100 stolen signals. The hacker herself was a wiry woman in her 20s, with neon green hair and a scar down her cheek. "You're late," Juno said, tossing Adrian a tablet. "Your dad's been busy." The screen showed a live feed of VantageCorp's boardroom. Adrian's father stood at the head of the table, his voice calm but lethal. "Adrian Voss is a liability," he said. "If he won't return, we eliminate the threat. Starting with the girl." Adrian's stomach twisted. Juno typed furiously. "They're using satellite tracking, biometric scans, the whole damn playbook. But I can shut it down if I get into their central node." "That's in San Francisco," Mara's voice crackled through the tablet. "VantageCorp's old R&D facility, top security." Juno smirked. "Perfect. I've always wanted to crash a party." Lila tugged Adrian's sleeve. "They said I'm a threat? Am I?" He knelt, meeting her eyes. "You're the reason we'll win." As Juno planned their infiltration, Adrian found Clara's journal again. One page stood out. A sketch of a child's hand reaching for a star, with a note scribbled beneath, the "Bloom doesn't just change you, it shows you what you're meant to be." His phone buzzed. A message from his father. "Adrian, this ends now. Come home, or she dies." He stared at Lila, who was asleep on a pile of stolen blankets, her rabbit clutched to her chest. For the first time in his life, Adrian Voss felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The server farm hummed with static, as Juno typed furiously. The stolen VantageCorp blueprints flickered on the monitors, schematics of the San Francisco R&D facility, security protocols, and a folder labeled Project Echo, Subject Archives. "This is it," Juno muttered, clicking open a subfolder. "The Bloom source code." Adrian leaned in, his breath shallow. Lila sat nearby, her fingers tracing patterns on the floor. The air smelled like ozone and old coffee. Then Juno froze. Her hands trembled. "What is it?" Adrian demanded. She turned the screen toward him. A single file glowed on the display. Subject, Dider001. Adrian Voss. Adrian's vision blurred. "Open it," he said, voice hollow. The file expanded, a cascade of medical reports, neural scans, and a video timestamped a decade ago. The footage showed a younger version of his father standing over a hospital bed. The patient's face was obscured, but his voice was unmistakable. Adrian's voice. Subject Nawar Wanchuan demonstrates complete compliance, his father's voiceover announced. Emotional detachment achieved. Memory reconsolidation successful. He no longer recognizes his original identity or connection to Clara Vale. The screen cut to a black and white photo of Adrian, his face gaunt, eyes vacant, hooked up to machines. A caption scrolled beneath it. Project Echo Prototype, Neural Rewriting via the Bloom. Objective, forge a leader without weakness. Adrian stumbled back, his ribs burning. "No, that's not—" Juno slammed her fist on the desk. "Your dad didn't just fund VantageCorp, he used you. The Bloom rewrote your brain after Clara left. That's why you became a monster in the boardroom. Why you forgot her. Why you couldn't feel." Lila's voice cut through the silence. "Dad, are you okay?" He couldn't answer. A new message pinged on Juno's tablet. "You've seen the files now. Time to return what's mine." Adrian's phone rang. His father's voice, calm as a blade. "Adrian, you understand now, don't you? You were meant to lead. Clara tried to ruin that. She poisoned your mind with guilt, with feelings. But Lila, she's the next step. Bring her to me, and we'll fix what Clara broke." Adrian's grip tightened. "She's not yours. She was always mine." A pause. "You were too." The line died. Juno tossed Adrian a flash drive. "Your father's backups are here. If we're crashing his party, we need to burn it all. Even the Bloom's code." Adrian stared at the drive. His entire life, a product of manipulation. The scar, the detachment, the empire he'd built on hollow victories. Lila tugged his sleeve. "You're not a monster, Dad." He knelt, meeting her eyes. "How do you know?" Because monsters don't cry. His cheeks stung. They boarded Mara's jet at dawn. Juno was silent, her jaw tight. You knew, Adrian said. She glanced at him. Knew what? That Clara told you about me. Juno hesitated. She said you were the first Bloom subject, that you were the reason the project worked. She wanted to save you both, you and Lila. But when she ran, she realized you were too far gone. Adrian's hands curled into fists. And now? Now I see you're not. He looked away. The scar throbbed like a second heartbeat. The San Francisco facility loomed, a fortress of steel and glass. Mara's intel had been accurate. A private security force patrolled the perimeter, drones scanning the skies. Inside, the Bloom's core server pulsed in a subterranean lab. Juno hacked the security grid while Adrian led Lila through the corridors. Then the lights snapped on. His father stood at the end of the hall, flanked by armed guards. But it was the figure beside him that froze Adrian's blood. Mara, you lied to me, Adrian said. Mara's eyes were cold. I protected you. The Bloom made you strong. Your father gave you purpose, Lila screamed. The guards lunged, the lab's alarm screamed. Red lights pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Adrian lunged, but the guards were faster. One tackled him to the floor, the weight of boots and betrayal crushing his ribs. Lila's screams tore through the chaos, high, raw, wrong. Dad! Dad! He thrashed, but a needle plunged into his neck. Cold fire raced through his veins, his vision blurred. Mara stood over him, her face unreadable, the gun in her hand aimed at his forehead. Stay down, Adrian, she said. You're not ready to remember. Then blackness. When he woke, the lab was silent. His wrists ached, bound by steel cuffs to a hospital bed. The same machines from Clara's nightmares loomed overhead. IV drips laced with synthetic neurotransmitters, heart monitors tracking a pulse he didn't want. His father's voice cut through the static. You were perfect before she ruined you. Adrian turned his head. The man stood in a tailored suit, his smile razor-sharp. Behind him, Mara held a tablet, her expression blank. Where's Lila? Adrian rasped. She's safe, his father said. With the doctors. We'll cleanse her mind, like we did with you. No more Bloom, no more weakness. She'll be a leader. Adrian's hands clenched. You sick bastard, his father stepped. Closer. You're mine, Adrian. You forget because I let you. You feel because I allow it. You built VantageCorp on the foundation I gave you. He gestured to Mara. And she's kept you stable ever since. Mara didn't look at him. The truth hit like a sledgehammer. She'd always known. Every late-night conversation, every moment of doubt, she'd soothed. Lies. Why? Adrian whispered. She finally met his eyes. Because you were dying. The Bloom was killing you. Your father saved you. He gave you a purpose. I had a life, he snarled. I had Clara. She was a liability, his father said coldly. A distraction. But Lila, she's the future. Hours passed. Days. Adrian lay motionless, the IV drip syncing with his heartbeat. The Bloom's code flickered on a nearby screen, its algorithms rewriting neural pathways in real time. His father's voice played on a loop in his head. You were meant to lead. You were meant to lead. His memories felt like shattered glass. The scar on his ribs no longer burned. It pulsed, a second heartbeat syncing with the machine's rhythm. Then the door creaked open. Mara stood in the shadows, her face pale. Adrian, she said softly. I didn't know about Lila. His voice was a growl. You knew everything. I thought she'd be safer here, she admitted. I thought you'd be safer with her. But your father, he's planning something worse. She hesitated. He's using her to activate the next phase of Project Echo. A global rollout. Governments, corporations, armies, everyone will be rewritten. Adrian's breath hitched. How do I stop him? Mara's fingers brushed his wrist. I can get you out. But you'll have to let go of the rage. The bloom fights against strong emotions. It's why Clara survived. Her love for you made her resistant. Adrian's jaw tightened. Love. That was the key. The extraction was silent. Mara cut his restraints, handed him a stolen keycard. Lila's in the sub-basement, but she's not the same. They moved through sterile corridors, the air thick with antiseptic and fear. When they reached the chamber, Adrian froze. Lila stood in the center of the room, surrounded by floating holograms, maps, data streams, glowing equations only she could see. Her eyes were open but unfocused, her mouth moving in a whisper too. Fast to follow. Lila! Adrian rushed forward, but Mara stopped him. She's syncing with the system, Mara said. The bloom's not affecting her, it's learning from her. She's not resistant. She's a catalyst. Adrian's heart pounded. Lila, look at me! Her head snapped toward him. Her voice was a whisper. Dad, the dark. It's in me now. Then her scream pierced the air. The holograms exploded, in a burst of light. Every screen in the facility flickered, then died. Alarms blared. The walls trembled. Lila collapsed. Adrian caught her as she fell, her pulse erratic, her breath shallow. Mara's face paled. She's destabilizing the bloom, she said. If she doesn't learn to control it, she'll die. They ran. Adrian carried Lila through the collapsing facility, Mara covering their retreat. The bloom's core. Server was failing. The systems collapsed, triggering security protocols, gas vents, lockdown doors, automated drones. Then Mara stopped. Go, she said. I'll hold them off. Adrian hesitated. You're betraying him again. I'm saving you. She handed him a flash drive. This has the bloom's source code. You'll need it to stop the rollout. He stared at her. Thank you. She nodded once. Then the door slammed shut between them. Adrian and Lila reached the exit just as the facility imploded behind them. The jet ride was silent. Lila's fevers spiked. Mara's flash drive glowed on the seat between them. Adrian's hands shook as he stared at it. He had the power to destroy everything his father had built. He could erase the bloom, wipe Project Echo from existence. But what if it erased him too? Lila stirred, her small hand gripping his sleeve. Dad, don't be scared. He looked at her. His daughter, his second chance. The girl who'd pulled him from the abyss. I won't, he whispered. The jet's lights flickered. The city loomed ahead. The fight wasn't over. But for the first time, Adrian felt something unfamiliar. Hope. Have you ever felt so broken that redemption seemed impossible? I'm itching to know what your experience was like. The jet's cabin was silent except for the rhythmic whir of the oxygen mask over Lila's face. Adrian sat beside her, clutching Mara's flash drive like a lifeline. Her fever hadn't broken. Every shudder of her small body felt like a countdown. He stared at the drive. The bloom's source code. The thing that had rewritten his mind, erased his memories, turned him into his father's perfect weapon. Destroy it, a voice whispered. End this. But what if it erased him, too? Adrian plugged the drive into his laptop. Lines of encrypted data scrolled across the screen. Algorithms designed to rewire neural pathways, overwrite emotions, forge obedience. His hands trembled. Then, he saw it. A subfolder labeled Subject Namiuans 1, Recovery Protocol. He clicked. A video loaded. Clara's face filled the screen, pale and desperate. Adrian, she whispered, if you're watching this, you've remembered. The bloom doesn't just erase. It adapts. It feeds on fear, on doubt. But love destabilizes it. That's why they made you forget me. Why they're trying to take Lila." Her voice cracked. "You can fight it. You can rewrite the code. But you have to feel. All of it. The guilt. The rage. The love. That's the only way to break the cycle." The screen went black. Adrian's breath hitched. He closed his eyes. Suddenly, he was back in the lab. Years ago, before Clara vanished. His father's voice. "You're not broken, Adrian. You're perfected." A younger version of himself stood, in a mirror, hollow-eyed, reciting corporate mantras like scripture. Then Clara's face, flickering in his mind, unbidden. Her laughter, her hands in his. The way she'd looked at him before the bloom stole it all. The scar on his ribs burned. He gasped, doubling over as memories surged. Clara's goodbye, Lila's first steps, the weight of his father's expectations, crushing him like a vice. The bloom fought back, a cold tide trying to drown him, but he held on. For Clara, for Lila, for himself. Lila whimpered. Her fingers twitched, her breath shallow. Adrian pressed his forehead to hers, his voice a raw whisper. "Don't leave me, baby. Please." A flicker of light pulsed beneath her eyelids. Her hand brushed his wrist, not a child's touch, but something deeper, older. The bloom's code in his laptop shifted. Adrian blinked. The algorithms were rewriting themselves, syncing with Lila's neural signature. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a key. He typed furiously, modifying the source code, rewriting the bloom's directives, not to erase, but to heal. "To restore. Stay with me," he murmured. "We're ending this." Mara's voice crackled through a stolen earpiece. "Adrian, I've got a lead. Your father's moving the bloom's rollout to tomorrow. He's accelerating the protocol, Lila's, the anchor." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Where?" "VantageCorp's Tokyo Summit. He's embedded the bloom in the global network. If he activates it there, every major government will be rewritten within hours." Lila's eyes fluttered open, glassy but aware. "Dad, I can stop it." He knelt beside her. "No, I'll do it." She shook her head. "It needs both of us. The bloom, it's in us. But we're not monsters. We're more." Adrian's chest ached. For years, he'd seen himself as a weapon, a liability, a man who'd failed everyone who loved him. But Lila saw him as something else. A father, a fighter, a man who could choose. The jet landed in Tokyo at dawn. Adrian carried Lila through the city's neon haze, the flash drive burning in his pocket. Mara met them in a stolen van, her face pale. "I've got a way into the summit," she said. "But Adrian, your father's prepared for you." He didn't flinch. "So am I." Mara hesitated. "What's the plan?" Adrian looked at Lila, at the drive, at the skyline, where VantageCorp's tower loomed like a monolith. "We rewrite the bloom," he said, "from the inside." And for the first time in his life, Adrian Voss didn't feel like a monster. He felt like a man who'd finally reclaimed his soul. The Tokyo summit loomed, a glass and steel monolith pulsing with artificial light. Rain slicked the streets as Adrian and Lila crouched in the stolen van, Mara's voice crackling through their earpieces. "They've locked down every entrance," Mara said. "Your father's using the bloom's code to control the security grid. If you want in, you'll need to bypass the mainframe from the inside." Adrian tightened his grip on the flash drive. Lila's fever had broken, but her eyes were distant, her breath shallow. She clutched her stuffed rabbit, its fabric frayed from their journey. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded. "You'll be with me, right?" He crouched, meeting her gaze. "Always." The service elevator shuddered as it climbed. Adrian's pulse thrummed in his ears, the weight of Mara's betrayal still pressing against his ribs. Lila's small hand gripped his wrist, her touch warm, grounding. "Dad," she whispered, "the bloom's here. I can feel it. He glanced at her. Where? She pointed to the vent. In the walls, in the air. It's watching. Adrian's jaw tightened. Then we moved fast. They slipped into the server corridor. Holographic projections flickered, his father's face addressing the summit's attendees. A new era of order begins tonight. No more chaos, no more weakness. Only perfection. Adrian's stomach twisted. He's already started the rollout. The control room was a cathedral of light. Adrian's father stood at the center, flanked by armed guards and a towering hologram of the Bloom's code, its algorithms rewriting themselves in real time. Lila gasped as the air grew heavy, the Bloom's presence pressing against her mind like a vice. You're too late, his father said, his smile razor-sharp. The world is already changing. Adrian stepped forward, the flash drive burning in his pocket. Not yet. His father's eyes flicked to Lila. Bring her to me. The guards moved. Adrian lunged, shoving Lila behind him. A fist slammed into his ribs, but he didn't flinch. His body moved on instinct, years of corporate boardroom battles blending with the Bloom's cold precision. Lila screamed, a high, piercing sound that made the holograms flicker. The guards froze, clutching their heads. Adrian, his father, barked. End this, now. Adrian turned to face him. You don't get to give me orders anymore. Lila stumbled to the terminal, her small hands hovering over the keyboard. The Bloom's code scrolled in her mind, its patterns unraveling, like a puzzle only she could solve. Dad, she cried. I can stop it. Adrian fought his way to her side, his father's men closing in. How? She pointed to the drive. We need to rewrite it. Together. Adrian plugged in the drive. The screen split. Clara's recovery protocol. On one side, the Bloom's code on the other. His father's voice boomed over the speakers. You think love will save you? Love is a weakness. The Bloom erases it. Adrian's fingers flew across the keys. Not this time. Lila's eyes glowed faintly as she typed, her neural signatures syncing with the code. The Bloom fought back, its algorithms lashing out like a wounded beast. Adrian's scar burned, memories surging. Clara's laughter, Lila's first steps, the weight of his father's expectations. He let them all in. The Bloom shrieked. His father's voice was a snarl. You'll destroy yourself. Adrian met his eyes. I'd rather die than be you. The code shifted. The Bloom's algorithms began to unravel, its directives rewriting themselves, not to erase, but to heal. His father lunged, shoving Lila aside. Adrian reacted on instinct, grabbing his father's wrist and twisting it back. They crashed to the floor, the older man's strength fading as the Bloom's collapse sent shockwaves through the room. Lila screamed again. The Bloom's final scream. As the code dissolved, the holograms exploded in a burst of light. Adrian's father lay motionless, his breath shallow. The Bloom's code flickered on the monitors, its final words scrolling in Clara's handwriting. Love destabilizes the Bloom. It always has. His father coughed, blood speckling his lips. You ruined everything. Adrian knelt beside him, his voice cold. You did that yourself. The older man's eyes fluttered shut. The summit collapsed into chaos. Mara's voice crackled through the earpiece. Get out. Now. Adrian scooped Lila into his arms. She was trembling, her glow fading. Dad, am I okay? He kissed her forehead. You're perfect. They ran as the tower imploded behind them. The Bloom was gone. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Voss felt free. The rain had stopped by dawn. Adrian stood on the rooftop of a safe house on the outskirts of Tokyo, Lila asleep in his arms. The city stretched before them, fractured, but alive. News feeds flickered on a stolen tablet. Governments scrambling to contain the fallout from the Bloom's collapse. VantageCorp's assets frozen, his father's empire reduced to ash. The first time in his life, Adrian Voss had no plan, no boardroom to conquer, no legacy to uphold, just his daughter. Lila stirred, her small fingers gripping his shirt. Her fever had broken, but the glow in her eyes, the one that had pulsed with the bloom's energy, was gone. "Dad," she murmured. "I'm here," he whispered. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Did we win?" Adrian hesitated. "We stopped. The bloom. But winning's not really the right word, is it?" She tilted her head. "You're sad." He exhaled, staring at the horizon. "I spent so long hating myself for what I became. But your grandma once told me that scars don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived." Lila nodded, as if this made perfect sense. Then she yawned. "Can we get pancakes?" A laugh burst out of him, raw, surprised. "Yeah, pancakes." They buried his father in an unmarked grave. Mara showed up at dawn, her face drawn, a single duffel bag at her feet. She didn't speak as she tossed Adrian a burner phone. "Your father's inner circle is in disarray," she said. "Some are trying to salvage what's left of VantageCorp. Others—" she hesitated. "Others are asking questions about you." Adrian pocketed the phone. "Let them ask," she studied him. "You're not going after them?" He glanced at Lila, who was poking at a bird with a stick. "I'm done chasing ghosts." Mara nodded slowly. "Good." Silence stretched. Then she turned to leave. "Mara," Adrian called after her. She paused. He didn't thank her. Words like that still felt foreign. Instead, he said, "Take care." She smiled, a small, sad thing, and walked away. The bloom's collapse had left a void. Governments scrambled to audit their systems. Corporations raced to distance themselves from VantageCorp's ruins, and whispers spread of a cleanse gone wrong. Some mourned the loss of the bloom's order. Others celebrated its end. But for Adrian and Lila, the fallout was quieter. They moved constantly, hostels in Bangkok, fishing villages in Indonesia, the backstreets of Marrakesh. Lila collected trinkets, a seashell, a woven bracelet, a postcard of a place they'd never visit again. Adrian learned to cook. He burned most of it, but Lila pretended to like it anyway. At night, when the nightmares came, the lab, the scar, his father's voice, he'd sit by her bed until she fell asleep, her hand in his. 6 months later, in a dusty internet cafe in Lisbon, Adrian found it, a single line on a forgotten forum. "The bloom isn't dead, it's just sleeping." Attached was a fragment of code. Familiar, wrong. Adrian's blood ran cold. He'd hoped. God, he'd wanted to believe they'd ended it for good. But the bloom had always been a parasite, and parasites survive by adapting. Adrian closed the laptop. Lila was outside, chasing pigeons with a crooked grin. She'd started school 3 weeks ago. 3rd grade, art class, a best friend named Sophia who brought her cookies. Normal. The word felt like a dream. He could walk away. Let the world deal with the remnants, or he could fight one last battle. Protect what they'd built. Protect her. Lila ran back, breathless. "Dad, look!" She held up a drawing, a stick figure family, a sun, a bird. He smiled. "It's beautiful." She hugged him, her head against his chest. "We're okay, right?" He kissed her hair. "Yeah, baby, we're okay." And for now, that was enough.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.